Hello, folks. I'm Tarah Wheeler Van Vlack. Welcome to another week of Tarah Talks. I am here today with Cynthia T. and with Elise Worthy, the respectively executive directors and CTO and co-founders of Ada Developers Academy, which is absolutely awesome. We're going to talk about how to get into a developer bootcamp this week. I would love it if these fabulous women would please introduce themselves. Elise and Cynthia, give us a little bit more about who you are and why you love doing what you do.
Cynthia, go ahead and go first.
Okay. My name is Cynthia T. I'm the Executive Director of Ada Developers Academy. And I actually just started last Monday, so not very new to me, but I love it. I used to work at Microsoft as a group program manager, and so a huge part of my career in designing consumer front ends. And I moved to Ada because I have a really big, strong passion around supporting women in their career paths in tech. I've spent a lot of time doing that in my job when I was at Microsoft, and I thought doing it full time would be a fabulous idea, and so that is why I'm here.
Awesome. I am Elise Worthy. I actually have a new title. I'm the technical director of Ada, but I was one of the co-founders, and me and a guy named Scott Case, who's the COO of Energy Savvy, and Susanna Malarkey of the Tech Alliance all got together to start Ada when Scott was lamenting that he couldn't hire any female engineers. And so it seemed like a really great opportunity. I had actually completed a intensive boot camp out of Washington, D.C. myself. And so we were sort of the perfect trio to get it off the ground. Since its founding in 2012, we've graduated one class and we have 2 classes in process. And I think that'll amount to about 65 students out by the end of these classes and 150 out by the end of 2016.
That is so amazing. That's just amazing to me. Can you both tell me, one of the questions I often get asked because of some of the advocacy I do is, why would you just focus on women? Doesn't everybody need help? And I would love it if you would address the question kind of right off the bat. Ada, I know, takes women, so why only women in the boot camp?
I have this great analogy that I thought of, and it's very practical. Let's see if it makes sense, because it made a great deal of sense in my head. So if you're making a fruit salad and you add a lot of apple and banana and orange, but you're missing the strawberry, or let's say you only put 1 strawberry in, would you, to make sure you get more strawberry, would you add strawberry, apple, banana, and orange, cut up more of those, or would you just cut up and add some strawberries? Practically, you would just add the strawberries. And so from a very pragmatic standpoint, that's why. There's a huge deficit of women in tech. Some of the major tech players have engineering teams as low as 1 in 10 women. And so we need more women. Let's train more women to be in dev roles. There's also a side benefit that the gender-specific training tends to be less competitive, tends to be a more supportive environment that women tend to get through and have a better time with.
And Elise, what led you? Cynthia, can you tell us a little bit more about why you decided to join Ada as the ED?
I have always had a strong passion around supporting women in their careers. And you know what Elise says about women is very true. I think if you talk to a lot of women as well, we have this strong bond and connection with each other. And so a lot of women in companies will tell you that we love to mentor each other and we love to be mentored. And that's how we build our connection. That's how, in a lot of teams at Microsoft, women tend to flock with each other. They look at a group, and if it's more diverse, they tend to go there. I've spent a lot of time mentoring women, helping them find their next steps in their careers. And I didn't do this as a full-time job. It was just sort of something I did on the side, and I loved it. I remember enjoying that the most about my time. And so I think that joining ADA as the ED and helping take the vision that Scott and Elise started and continuing it forward is really just really speaks to my personal passion. And so that's why I'm here.
That is absolutely wonderful. Can you tell me some of the great success stories that you've seen that maybe weren't as expected? You know, how have you seen women succeed beyond the point that you thought that they would succeed as a result of this?
Yeah. You know, when I was talking to various students, I actually went through an interview process for this job, and part of that interview process actually was to sit with the students and have a conversation with them and a Q&A back and forth, and I actually spent some time understanding where they came from and their backgrounds, and it is really amazing to me. I was talking to a flight attendant, a baker, and a caterer, and these women these women have a genuine love and passion for coding. They had a very strong determination. They already had careers. And so for me, it was just truly amazing to talk to them about how they decided to put their current careers on hold, actually throw it out the window, choose to go ahead and take this class, choose to devote a full year of jumpstarting a new career. In some cases, moving to Seattle. One of the students I talked to actually moved herself from California, and just do it. And now they are successful full-time software developers at a company in Seattle. One of them is actually one of the most productive people on our team, as a matter of fact. And so for me to see that transformation is truly inspiring. I am like in awe of these women. So, yeah.
And Elise, what stories do you have? Since you've been there longer.
Oh, yeah. Well, gosh, I'm trying to think of it. One of the really neat stories is a student from our first class worked at the Starbucks across the street originally. And she had gotten a degree, I think she had worked on a degree in like molecular biology or something like that, and just had realized that she was going to be working in a lab for the rest of her life and didn't have a great career trajectory with even something so STEM focused, and ended up at Zillow. And so, you know, there are so many unique students, like Cynthia said, that have gone through this program. Each one of their stories is different, but they're all equally impressive.
That's a really great way to put it. And one of the things I'd love to know is kind of stepping back from the women developers issue, just what about boot camps by themselves? What about boot camps are special or different than going to college or just teaching yourself? Why would you pay this money to have someone else give you this information?
Do you want to take that one, Cynthia? Or I'm happy to.
You should start. You actually went through this.
Okay. Well, for me, I mean, boot camps are retraining programs. They're reset buttons for people who have chosen other career paths. My undergraduate degree was in urban planning. I thought I was going to inherit my dad's park development business, and it turns out I am a really crummy park designer. So that didn't work out so well. And there's no way I could have gone back and gotten a 4-year CS degree with all the prereqs as an adult. There's just no way to do it. So boot camps are a way to just, you know, in a relatively short period of time, drop you in, give you all the practical skills you need to be a really effective software developer at an entry level.
And I also know that a lot of people don't recognize this, but most of the people who are doing full-time work as developers don't have computer science degrees. They've either taught themselves, they've gone to boot camps, they've just worked their way into the position. But honestly, the most of the people who at least right now have spent 10 to 15 years in the industry don't have CS degrees. And this is a great way, I think, to retrain yourself. So, Cynthia, have you seen people do this as well, to just kind of jump from one career to another that's closely related and then brand themselves this way?
Yeah, I mean, even in a corporate big company like Microsoft, there are quite there are definitely some engineering leaders that have never been through a traditional degree. In fact, I think two of the co-founders of some of the largest companies that we have today did not finish their college degree before founding that company, right? So I think it's never too late. I hear quite a few people telling me, well, it's too late for me to do this, and it's not. I was actually educated with a CS degree, and I will honestly say that 90% of what I learned about building software did not come from my university degree. You know, languages change, toolkits change, frameworks change, everything changes, and I think the most important part is you have to be willing to continue learning and going through that cycle. So any learning institution you go to gives you a certain foundation, but you never stop learning and you never stop picking it up, and it is absolutely trainable. I've seen it happen so many times. And so I do believe boot camps and this method of alternative learning, as we might call it, is extremely valuable and very applicable, very, very applicable to this particular industry. So,
can you talk about the cost and the logistics of doing something like this? And what does it take to go through a boot camp like the one that you've set up? And maybe what are some common themes about going through developer boot camps? Cost, logistics, time, that kind of stuff.
okay. Well, first I'll talk about the cost to the student. For ADA specifically, the cost to the student is zero. It's a tuition-free program, so that is what makes it unique. The second part of it that makes it unique is it's a year-long program. It's a combination of classroom time and an internship. And so we partner with quite a few companies throughout Seattle to basically fund the whole program. And these companies, many of them are already used to funding interns into their companies. So from that perspective, it's no different for them from a cost perspective. But here, what we're basically doing is applying some of that cost up front for the student to train them. And then those students go through an internship, a dedicated 5-month period, which is, I think, longer than your average internship, where they work with that team. They're already pretty ramped up. And so they actually, if things work out, make great full-time hires already because they're already ramped up in applying immediately what they learned to a specific project at that company. So, but it does, you know, so the cost of the student, there is no cost with our particular program. Certainly not the case with other programs that you see. But we have done that specifically because we really want to draw women from many diverse backgrounds into this program and give them that opportunity. It is quite a rigorous and intense year, for sure. 7 months is not a whole lot of time to give them the full stack that we teach them, but it, you know, we definitely have an admissions process, which I'll have Elise talk about a little more because she's very involved with it, in evaluating aptitude for these students. So obviously we don't expect students to come in with already existing coding experience or any degree or any learning. We're actually optimizing for people who do not have that background specifically, but we do measure a certain level of aptitude during the admissions process as well. So,
I've seen really great programs, and there are other good programs in town, out of town. I know Angie Chang, who's the founder of HackBright, you know,
yes.
Chris Smith, who founded Code Fellows, and often what they do is they optimize for people who can code or have some technical experience and who want to retrain in another language, you know, or who are working around this professionally. And so one of the things I find really interesting about ADA is that it is that full-time, it's your day job for a year situation. So I'm just glad to see that there are different camps covering different kinds of the market and servicing a lot of different people. I think it's a great program. So before we go into the audience question and answer situation, is there anything else that I should know about kind of how you feel about boot camps, any pieces of advice? We'll wrap it all up at the end too, but what do you really want, what do you wish people asked you that they never ask you?
Oh man, well, so everyone learns differently. And even if you decide not to do a developer boot camp, even if you decide that software development is not for you, doing some self-study, picking up a textbook, doing things online, doing a weekend class, learning how to program will make a major difference in your job now. whether it's any field, any industry. Learning to program is a great way to boost your skills. So there's this thing where you're either a software developer or you're not. You can choose to be a partial dev, a part-time dev.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, like, it really is never too late. And software development, software in general, is just a very powerful tool to achieve things. And so I've seen it applied in all sorts of industries. There's an app for everything, right? So it is never too late, and it is always a good tool and skill set to have to achieve whatever goals you have in mind.
That is awesome, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to feel that you're really empowering people who maybe see tech as a little intimidating and just kind of opening the doors to them. So that's a great. I'm glad that you're providing that service to the community as well as the technical training. Okay, we've got a whole list of awesome questions from the audience. I've got one already on Twitter from Virus. Virus wants to know about boot camps that don't just function in terms of Python or Django or Ruby, but ones that will teach things like virtual processor implementation in functional languages. Do you know of any out there?
I don't, and I'd have to pull it up. I could put it in some show notes, but there are a few great websites that aggregate all the boot camps and are really good at showing different strengths and weaknesses of all of them, and that would be where I would look.
I didn't know that existed. That's cool. I would love that link, and I'll post it right now for people.
Yeah, I have to pull it up. So give me a sec. But
yeah.
But gosh, I really haven't heard of any boot camps that go that way. I think there's a really intense one out of New York, but I would have to look at that list.
That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. Please do. If you send me that link, then I'll post it out right now. In fact, I'll blast it across this Hangout screen. That's amazing. I didn't know that resource existed. This is one of the reasons I like doing this, because I found out all the cool stuff about all the upcoming things and ways to learn and stuff like that. So, okay, I've got. So Cynthia and Elise, I say this every once in a while to people that are on this webcast, and I say this to a lot of people. I get asked a lot of questions privately. People don't tweet these questions, and they only email them to me or they ask them of me privately. And one of the reasons why is I talk so much about career improvement and how to get jobs and how to do salary negotiations that a lot of people asking questions are really asking because they're trying to get out of their current work situation. So the first question here is basically, what is your best advice for attending boot camps when you don't want to get caught? How do you do this? How do you retrain yourself and not get caught, or spin it in some way so that you are looking to express that you're getting training to do well at your current role and not just because you're trying to get the hell out of wherever you're at right now?
I think given that there are quite a few boot camps out there, I think you could just safely say, hey, it's a tool, it's a skill that I would like to add to my current existing set of skills. You look at tons of apps that people have written on the side. There are a lot of people who actually have full-time jobs that are completely not software development oriented and have just written apps on the side. I mean, there's so many examples of this. So you're going to go to a camp, somebody will see you enter the building. I don't know if it's worth trying to hide. I would just position it as, hey, it's a skill set that I'm very interested in that I want to build. Who knows? It might help me in my current job one day.
And, most companies are software companies these days, even if they don't seem like it on the outside. Nordstrom is one of our big sponsors. So very likely you can spin it in that way. It's a marketing thing.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, thank you. And to the anonymous woman out there who asked me how the hell she gets out of her current job and not get caught, figure out a way to make it look like you are doing this so that you can serve the company that you're in. And it's a clear sell to almost any company. So, and if that's not the case, if you can't spin it in any other way, well, just email me again and we'll figure something out. All right. The next question I have here, I loved the question about cost. So I guess the question that this person really has is less about Ada is not charging, and you're running people through. It's clear someone has to pay for it somehow, and you mentioned Nordstrom's a great sponsor of yours. And I love to see companies really getting involved in especially helping women code, because quite frankly, it does them a lot of good. There's a reason to create diversity on teams. You solve problems better that way. The question is basically, if I am going to Ada and you have 5 sponsors, do I have to, am I being forced to work at one of your sponsors after I'm out of there?
So our sponsors basically offer us intern slots for all our students. So during the internship program, we basically we ask the students what they're interested in, the companies come and present, and also meet the students. So we do some matchmaking as part of the program for the internship spot, to matchmake the student and where their interests are with the company and what they're looking for. So internship is required as part of this program, and so every student is guaranteed a spot somewhere in the list of companies that have sponsored us for that particular class. After that, there's no commitment on either part. So the company is not obligated to give you an offer, and the student is not necessarily obligated to stick with that company. If I always tell people, if it was a great experience for you and you're learning a lot and you like who you're working for, by all means, like, it's a match made in heaven, like, go for it. And you don't have to stay there forever, but you do get a lot out of your continued experience. And because you've already ramped up there, if it's working out for you, then keep gaining from that experience. And the company is also getting a lot from you and also giving you back a lot of learning and experience for that reason. But there is no absolute obligation after you finish the program that you would go work for that company full time.
Okay, fair enough. Let's jump on to the next question, and this is kind of a bigger one, and it has to do, it's a really rough one. It has to do with role models, diversity, and the women in technology issue. Partially it goes to why you founded Ada, and also how at this level we're solving the issue of the women in tech problem. I get asked a lot about role models for women in technology, and I'm sure that you both are, I've watched you both before be called role models for women in technology, and one of the things that scares me is that we may substitute role models of women in technology for actually statistically improving the state of women in technology. I was asked about, why do we need to keep pushing this whole women in tech agenda? I mean, Sheryl Sandberg is an executive, so clearly women can get to the top. And I was like, well, that's swell, except for the part where the number of women in technology is decreasing, not increasing. And I'm really glad to see you solving that problem. But I guess one of the questions I would have for you is, when you go out and sell Ada graduates, do you sell them as women in tech, or do you sell them as developers who also happen to be women? And if so, which direction do you go and why?
I talk about both, because yes, it is solving a gender gap, and actually no CTO that I know that I've talked to will ever disagree or challenge me on that. None of them. They're actually very, very supportive usually in terms of wanting more women on their teams. And I don't meet a whole lot of resistance in terms of arguing with me about why having more women or having more diverse workforce actually helps them. So, and if I did, I think it is justified that you just have more diverse teams, you build better products. I mean, many people like to build worldwide products at this point. I think that, to your point about Sheryl Sandberg, I mean, these are obviously very capable, inspiring women. Marissa Mayer, I would say the same. But even if you look at the whole pool of women who want to get into technology, I don't think every single one of them relates completely to Sheryl or relates completely to Marissa. Like, I'll look at them and there are definitely qualities I admire about them, but I wouldn't necessarily lead like them. I certainly don't look like them. I have a different communication style. And so, when I look at Ada and the women that we are building, I don't only envision it as building software developers. I look at this as building future leaders from a more diverse pool. And I would love to, in thinking of expanding Ada's role, provide support for these women even after they graduate. And for me, it's not just good enough to see them as successful software developers. I would love to help them be great leaders. and I would love to see the female role models that we present out to the public as a more diverse group over time, so that it's not just Marissa and Cheryl, but it is, just a more diverse set of people. I come from a corporate culture in a company that actually has done the same thing. They've picked like 1 or 2 women in the company, and that's all they put in front of people. And the rest of us sort of hide behind the scenes and we do our jobs, and we're thankful that we're not out in the press. Well, I now, after having been through what I've been through, I feel like, I tell them all the time, like, you actually shouldn't be doing that. You are a company that actually has quite a few women in leadership roles, and I think you should actually put more of them out there, because I think it inspires more people to see different types of role models and different ways to be successful. So
that is amazing. I've got a great question here from a woman who's older. What is the age limit for ADA developers? Not just your rules, but practically, how old, is too old to get into a programming career?
I don't think it's ever too late, to be honest. One of our students, I believe, in the second cohort is over 50. I had a woman yesterday talk to me about applying. She did not grow up as a developer or get trained as a developer, but she is an active leader in a program called Expanding Your Horizons. And she's over 60, I think. So I just believe that it's never too late. There is no age limit. If you have the aptitude and you have the motivation, you have an admissions process. We evaluate people, and if you pass through that admissions process, then go for it.
I read a really interesting article about job switching over 40, and how it was saying that, like, you have to start at a really low pay grade and work your way up. The beautiful thing about software development is even entry-level positions pay a really decent wage. So you're not going to be taking as big of a salary hit, particularly if you go through a shorter program. So, entry-level jobs are $65,000, $70,000 a year. So that makes good economic sense too.
That is absolutely awesome. So now, before we get done here, I've got one final question here that it's really amazing and really touching. I think this is coming from a woman who I think really wants to be a software developer and is a little bit afraid of, kind of joining the boys' world. And she sees the issues that we have in technology and wants to know, is it even really worth it? Can I find the support that I need? Will I get the training I need, or are they just going to lock me out? And I mean, I've got, believe me, a 10-point PowerPoint on this exact topic, but I would love it if you could offer some words of encouragement to women who are, they're in retail, they're waitresses, they started like I did, waiting tables and working at the mall and working their way on up. How would you encourage these women who just don't know if software development is for them, and tell them that they're welcome?
I will say 2 things. One, I've met with quite a few CTOs, and they constantly tell me how much they want to address this diversity issue. As I said to our students recently, we have a 3rd cohort that just started. I told them, like, you are all in extremely high demand. When things get rough and sometimes you get discouraged, you just shouldn't forget that. People want female developers. People want developers, period, by the way, but a lot of CTOs recognize this is a problem and really want to do the right thing and hire female developers. And so being a female software developer, A, it's never too late, B, you are always going to be in high demand. I do recognize that a lot of companies don't have great environments. I actually believe that a lot of CTOs are very well intended. They just need some guidance on how to do things differently. And a lot of the guidance I give is, I don't know that it's about treating women differently as much as it is just being more open in your communication style and your leadership. Nobody likes being interrupted. Nobody likes speaking very loudly, actually. Like a lot of guys tell me that. They don't necessarily like that sort of culture either. That's just one example of a stereotypical environment, right? So I think people are willing to make the change. I do recognize there's still some challenging environments out there, but it is changing. There are definitely companies that are very progressive, in terms of their attitudes towards diversifying, flexibility, more open communication. These things are really important to diversify in any manner, gender related or not. And there is definitely a strong female engineering women in tech network in Seattle. There are many groups of us, and we are very connected and networked, and we always want to help each other. So even if you go through some of our panels and some of our dinners and some of our gatherings, there's quite a few pockets of us. We're always really willing to help and support each other. And that's a very positive thing, and that's definitely something I would encourage a lot of people to leverage. Even if you're not already a software developer, but you want to be, we are very welcoming and supportive of that. So
that is absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad to hear it. I've been just thrilled to have you guys with me this week. And wait, folks, I keep trying to purge the word guys from my vocabulary, and there's just a little bit too much leftover urban punk in there to get it all the way out. So I'm working on that whole folks instead of guys thing. I would love it, Elise and Cynthia, if you would both give me your best sentence of advice for people, and not just women, but people who are considering doing developer boot camps. What is the single sentence of advice that you would leave them with for the rest of the day?
Keep practicing. There are so many options available online. Even if you're doing 5 minutes a day, that's 5 minutes a day closer to being a software developer or just augmenting your skills.
yeah, I would say never stop learning. And should you choose to do a boot camp, as Elise says, many varieties of them, they offer different types of flexibility. And there will be some concepts that are really tough to understand or apply, and it's a different set for different people. Just because you don't get it, you're going to meet somebody who does get it. There will be something you pick up really well that somebody else does not, and it's a chance for you to help them too. So it's practice. It's the community is really large and very supportive. There are many places you can go for support. There's never a stupid question. Never a stupid question. So if it's really what you want to do, practice, learn, and interact with the community to get support when you need it.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, very much, Cynthia, the Executive Director, and Elise Worthy, Technical Director of Ada Developers Camp. This has been a great experience, and please, everyone, follow Cynthia and Elise on Twitter, ask them questions, and do explore more, not just about Ada, but about all developers and dev boot camps. It's a great way to retrain yourself and to get stuff done, to really make a difference for you and your career without having to go through the 4-year college degree process. So thank you all very much. We look forward to seeing you again next week. I will have another awesome topic posted shortly for you, and have a lovely week. Wonderful day. Bye-bye.